All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back. KJCR, JimmyChurchRadio.com. This is The Revolution. I am your host, Jimmy Church, live from Burbank, California, from the Galpin Ford Studios. That's right here in the San Fernando Valley. Give the sales manager there a call right now. Rubik Hartunian, 818-425-2828. My best friend, I bought 5 cars in 15 years from one man and one man only. That's Rubik Hartunian from Galpin Ford. Also brought to you by National Tax Experts, 877-909-5444. NatTaxExperts.com. 'Tis the season. All right, are you ready? I am your host, Jimmy Church. Shoot us an email right now to Jimmy@JimmyChurchRadio.com. You can follow us on Twitter @JChurchRadio for syndicatednews.net. Now check this out. In the studio live with us right now, I have the one and the only Chris Holmes, who changed rock and roll guitar as we know it. Today, star of The Decline of the Western Civilization. He stole that movie. Former guitar player of Wasp. Was in the studio right now, Chris Holmes. Chris, how you doing, my brother?
Yo, mammy.
Now, Chris, before we get started, I just want to say a couple of things. Number one, we've known each other for 25 years, and we have a hard time, so I'm just going to toe the rope and ask questions today for everybody. Let's just act like we're friends, okay? Let's just have a conversation.
So you don't want me to hit you?
No, we need to act.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And second thing is I'm going to, and I want you to be honest with everybody out there about how you changed. I mean, what was it like? I'm going to start from the beginning. What was it like in Pasadena back in the 80s with you, Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads running around, and you guys were changing rock and roll as we know it today? Did you know it at the time?
No, we were just doing drugs.
No, seriously.
No.
I mean,
change it. What do you mean? To loud, aggressive rock?
Well, there was the period before, and I guess I'm asking you like this. There was the period before you and Randy and Eddie Van Halen and that style of guitar. And I'm talking about you went off and did your own style. Randy did his own thing. Eddie did his own thing. You guys went out and you guys were groundbreakers. Did you know it at the time? No.
Groundbreakers. You just play with the people you liked before you,
Right. And who was influencing you at the time? Was it bands on the Strip, at the Starwood?
No, Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix? Yeah. And that's who you used to go home and play in your bedroom? Mm-hmm. It was Hendrix?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
To the mirror.
Okay. Well, okay. I just want to say this really quick for everybody out there. The other day I was driving in Pasadena, and Rick's Tacos has changed their name.
What?
It's like called Bob's. and I used to go and I used to see Chris there at Rick's Tacos at 3:00 in the morning. And Rick's, for everybody that was from Pasadena, was just an institution. It's where we hung out at, including Chris.
Yeah, El Molino and Walnut.
El Molino and Walnut next to the courthouse.
They changed the name?
They changed the name, man. It's like Bob's. Oh, wow. So back then, did you and Eddie talk? Did you and Randy talk? Did you guys hang out? Did you guys talk guitar?
No. Sometimes.
Okay.
When you're all together or whatever.
Did he come and check you out? What was the mood like back at the Strip back then? Was it heavy competition between all of the guitar players? Were you guys checking each other out?
It was kind of like competition, but it was on Santa Monica at the time.
Right, at the Starwood.
It wasn't a Strip.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. Well,
the Strip wasn't a Strip then. Gazzari's. Whiskey was there.
Troubadour.
Was Roxy there?
Roxy was there, but it wasn't like rock. It was like new wave. Remember? Yeah, it was like a wave thing that was going on. Yeah. What guitar did you start off playing? What was your first guitar?
It was a 6-string.
6-string? Yeah. Not a 5? Not a banjo?
A 4-string.
Do you remember your first guitar?
I think it was a Fender.
Fender? Jaguar?
Yeah, Jaguar, Jazz Master.
Okay.
One of those.
And then, so you moved up. I always like to ask other musicians if they remember their first guitar and where that guitar is today. Do you have any idea? Do you have any idea what happened to that guitar?
No. I couldn't tell you, man. I probably sold it for some drugs or something.
So you get this Jaguar, and you've told me this story before, but I want you to share it with everybody right now. You were playing high school football, and you broke your leg? Is that what happened?
No, I had a virus created water in the knees.
And we're up against a break, but I want you to tell everybody the story when we get back off of the break about how you started playing guitar and how high school football caused that. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll be back right after this. This is The Revolution. I am your host, Jimmy Church. We're live in the studio right now with Chris Holmes, a man with a lot to say. We'll be back right after this. Shoot us an email on Twitter. Shoot us an email at jimmychurchradio.com. You can follow us on Twitter at jchurchradio. We'll be back with Chris right after this.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio, The Revolution.
KJCR.
JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back. KJCR, JimmyChurchRadio.com. I am your host, Jimmy Church. We're live from Burbank, California.
Just close enough.
Live from the Galpin Ford Studios. Right here in sunny Burbank. Galpin Ford. Call Ruben Cartoonian, 818-425-2828. Also, national tax experts, 877-909-5444. And Voyage Limousine, the official limousine service, right here for JimmyChurchRadio.com. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio for syndicatednews.net. All right, let's go. We're in the studio live with Chris Holmes. Chris, you still with us?
Yep, right here.
Okay. All right. And in a second, I want you to tell everybody what this music is that we're listening to, because that is you. Okay. So high school football, and you had a little injury. How did that make you play guitar?
Well, I had as a virus, and I had water. You know, your knees swell up. I had water on both knees, so I had these splints. You could bend your knee about 30 degrees, so I couldn't run. So sports was out of the picture until they came off, and one was on there for about a year and a half, and one was there for about 6 months. So all I did was sit at home and play guitar.
And that was out in that Jaguar?
Yeah.
And Jimi Hendrix, that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah.
Now we're talking about what, 1970 what, 5? What year is this?
It'll be 73.
73.
Yeah.
So those are the early Nugent days, Deep Purple, that kind of thing. Black Sabbath, maybe a little of that in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Humble Pie.
Humble Pie, and you moved on. Then you had your first band. What was that?
I don't even know the name of them. What's the first band? I'm trying to remember. God. I think his name's Shagavara. No, Slave.
Slave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Slave.
Now, all of this was going on, and we're in the studio, by the way, with Cruz and Kenny. All of this was going on in La Crescenta? Pasadena, La Crescenta. And, okay, so you get the first band together, and you were playing cover tunes and everything. But what you developed into in that style of music I hate to use the word heavy metal, but back then, certainly that's what it was called. It's different today, but you started to flow into this certain style. When did you start to write your songs and write for yourself, or that Chris Holmes thing started to come out? When did you feel like you were Chris Holmes?
When I was born. I climbed out from under a rock. I played in Sister when I was 19. I didn't have an identity then. I didn't know what I wanted to do. As with Blackie, I hated the guy then.
Mm-hmm.
I love him now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, when I started, I don't know, turn the amp on 10 and go. You know, I don't know what kind of style it is.
Well, when I say style, because there's a distinct chord tone that I can pick Chris Holmes out of a crowd. Yeah. When did you figure that out? Was it, and you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So when did you get to that point? Did you break a finger? You know.
No, I don't. I used to work at Sherwin Vega. You know.
Right.
And I was watching oscilloscope, and that's how I learned to hit chords.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's weird. See, you'd have to see the oscilloscope. Tells you if you got distortion or not, and clips.
Right.
So when I hit a third, it was clipping. I didn't like that. So every note's a 2-note chord.
Right.
2 notes.
So
not 3 notes.
So you're at Sherwin Vega. Just let me get this right. You're staring at an oscilloscope. You're working at this speaker factory. You're playing chords, and you're seeing this third in there. And then you drop the third out, and things cleaned up, and you were like, "That's it."
Yeah, it's happening. The sound. Yeah.
And it's been that way ever since.
Yep. Yeah. 2-note chords. I will not hit a 3-note chord. Never have. Never will. And
that's my point.
Yep.
You change. I mean, you went and did something that nobody else was doing, and you have to understand, for everybody out there, and for myself included, that were guitar players, when you heard, you know, those first Wasp records with you on it, and heard Chris Holmes, it had a distinct thing that didn't sound like anybody else, and I was like, whoa! And it wasn't easy to figure out, by the way. It was less notes, but harder to play.
Yeah, 2-note chord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, and I've told Chris this story many times, but I want to share this with everybody. I got sick and I was in the hospital back in Indianapolis, and a friend of mine comes by and brings me a stack of magazines to read. Excellent. I got my long hair. No, they weren't X-rated. None of that. Should have been. Wasn't. Yeah. All right. And so I'm there. Got my long hair. I'm Eddie Van Halen wannabe guy. And flipping through, and on this cover of Kerrang is a picture of you. And it's Chris with blood, just saw blades on his shoulder, just gnarly picture. And I looked at that and I went, that's who I want to be. I want to be that guy right there. And it was that way for everybody else, you know, around the world, because you were the only band and you were the only guitar player that at that time. Now, today, you can't shock kids. No. You know what I mean?
No.
It's everywhere. But back then, you were blowing minds. You know what I mean? And what was the vibe, you know, for you going out there? I mean, how did you get to that point of this look, this image?
At a junkyard.
You got razor blades and saw blades at a junkyard?
Junkyard.
I'm serious.
Yeah, pick apart. Junkyard. From underneath a car, you know.
I don't even know how to answer that. This is The Revolution. Live in the studio right now with Chris Holmes from Wasp. Decline of the Western Civilization, rock star, rock god. We'll be back right after this. This is JimmyChurchRadio.com, KJCR. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be back more with Chris Holmes right after this.
About that.